What's up? It's your boy, Reflective Glasses. But, things are getting serious. I'm happy to say this channel has gotten so big that this video has a budget. That's right, I was about to spend $3.99 on the film we're gonna be talking about. But, then I realized the whole thing's on YouTube for free, which, I'm glad I figured that out, because, the emotional cost of this movie is, it's worth more than any money. But, so, Foodfight is a movie, maybe better classified as an experience, but whatever it is, it came out in 2012. It has a star-studded cast, such as Charlie Sheen, Wayne Brady, Hilary Duff, Eva Longoria, and, yeah. Alright, so this movie, honestly, the concept of it's not bad. It's basically about all the mascots for different food brands, and it's about them living this life in a grocery store, and they're getting taken over by this bad food brand. It's kind of like a commentary, on capitalism. So, if it wasn't for, the creepy animation, unnecessary amount of weird food jokes.
Who's your sugar daddy?
And the fact that most of the major plot points are done through really weird and oftentimes really sexual dance sequences, the movie wouldn't have been bad, but sadly those things are all true, so the movie's bad. But I took the liberty of watching it, and we're gonna look through it and have fun. So this movie opens on this nice little supermarket, and it is owned by this man here, Leonard.
Good night, Mr. Leonard.
And might I say, Leonard dummy thick, and he knows it. Just look at the way he stands. He's showing what he's got. So, the movie was off to a great start. I really wished Leonard had been a more prominent character, but right after he closes up shop, we go through all the aisles in a really uncomfortably long sequence. And then right after that, all the lights just come back on, and we are shown our main metropolis. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on here. I honestly thought the supermarket was closing, and then we were just panning out to the city the supermarket was in. But like 10 minutes into the movie, it finally dawned on me, no, this is the supermarket itself. And all the different icons for these brands of food live in the supermarket and form their own society that they live in. But after a quick tour of the city, we're introduced to our main character, Dex Dog Detective, played by none other than Charlie Sheen. There's a lot of questions about how Dex got into this situation that he's initially in. He's on a hot air balloon fighting these weird, rats with doing ninja and stuff. But Dex, being the bad good boy he is, just fights them off and kicks ass. And it's kind of introduced that Dex, he's a detective. A dog detective. Dex Dog Detective. He is loved and famous and very well known in this city, and he solves all the crimes, and he's just the hero of this whole supermarket. But then we're introduced to Dex's best friend. His name is Daredevil Dan. And, the character is fine. He's kind of the comic relief of the story. He's Dex's sidekick. But the animation of this guy, literally every time he talks, he's just he's just doing this, and I don't understand why. But after this long day of dog detective stuff, solving crimes, Dex goes and meets up with Sunshine, his girlfriend. And, yeah, she's a furry. But I'm not judging, because obviously Dex is a furry too. I guess he can just afford a better costume. But basically, Dex is planning this romantic dinner. He's going to propose to Sunshine. He gets comically interrupted by Daredevil Dan and this moose who's from New Jersey, apparently.
And forget about it. For dessert, we got...
And of course, right before he can pop the question, Daredevil Dan has to go crash his freaking airplane. And Sunshine, being Sunshine, is like, oh, we gotta go find Daredevil Dan. No time to lose. So they run off, and we're just literally shoved into, the main conflict of the story, because apparently she goes to look for Daredevil Dan and just disappears. It literally cuts from the scene of her going to find him to just a scene of Dex and Daredevil Dan just being like, oh, where's Sunshine? We don't know.
I don't understand it. Sunshine went to check on you right after the crash.
No, I told you, dog, I didn't crash.
And I kid you not, right after that it just says 6 months later. Whatever. But even though the story is just shoved forward at this point, that's cool with me because we get to go back to Leonard and, damn, Leonard. So we're back at the supermarket, and this weird vampire-looking dude comes in, and he's basically forcing Leonard to take all these products, which are a brand called Brand X, which, for one, I thought, like, if you're the owner of a store, you kind of make that choice, but I don't know. I'm not a store owner. And, you know, this is fine. It introduces conflict, but I just don't understand why this whole conversation, Leonard and this vampire guy are just doing this weird dance. Like, the whole time they're talking is just... I feel like whoever animated this movie just, like, I guess just felt pressure to keep movement going in every scene, and they thought that a character just doing this was good enough. But then we go back into the supermarket world, and we learn that Sunshine's still missing 6 months later. Nobody knows what happened to her, and poor Dex, he's given up being a detective because obviously this was the one case that actually mattered to him.
The only case that ever really mattered.
And he couldn't solve it.
And I couldn't solve it.
So Dex is all depressed, understandably, and Daredevil Dan's kind of being an asshole here.
Buddy, look, I miss her too. But dude, it's been 6 months.
Come on, Dex, whatever. Your girlfriend disappeared and has been gone for 6 months. She's probably dead. It's fine, okay? Get over it. But basically after this is said, we just go into this weird sequence where a lot of weird stuff happens. So first, Daredevil Dan just flies off in his plane, crashes it again. Dex is just walking down the street and he runs into this weird weasel guy who has an annoying-ass way of talking.
Wait.
And apparently this weasel, like, runs the underground market for coupons in this whole supermarket world. And there's just this weird thing where Dex just, like, corners him onto train tracks, I guess. And the weasel is just, like, stuck on the train tracks and is like, oh no, you got me cornered. I guess I'm gonna have to get hit by a train. Even though clearly right behind him there's, like, a big open alleyway. He could just step backwards. But nonetheless, he just stays there and gets hit by a train. But all of this weird sequence just leads up to this big party going off. All the different food personalities are there. It is the place to be, but Dex arrives there. He's depressed, of course, not wanting to party. And then here, we are introduced to Lady X. She busts in, everybody's looking, and there's a whole badass, like, music sequence. But Lady X doesn't care about them. She just wants our boy Dex. She goes right for him and is being all flirtatious. And apparently Lady X smells good.
That scent. Something familiar.
But Lady X is trying to get with Dex and he's like, nah, I'm still with Sunshine. I'm a one-woman man. You can get on out of here. And Daredevil Dan's... he's just doing some simp shit. I'm sorry.
Who's your sugar daddy? Hands up.
This pirate guy, like, insults Lady X and Daredevil Dan's just like, no, don't talk to the lovely lady like that. So Daredevil Dan and this pirate guy start fighting over Lady X, I guess, and they fly into the crowd.
Foodfight!
And then the whole crowd just starts fighting. I don't know if they're all fighting over Lady X or they just saw two people fighting and were like, oh, I guess this is what we're doing now. But apparently Dex is respected enough that all he has to say is...
Party's over. Time to banana split out of my club.
Dex, I'm trying to get that level of respect. How do you do that? But basically, Lady X tries to flirt with Dex one more time, and Dex isn't having it, so she's just like, fine, I'm gonna be with Daredevil Dan. And Daredevil Dan is cool with that. Dex goes back home, and he just starts drinking away his sorrows like usual, and then Lady X just appears in his house.
What are you doing here?
I have never seen so much sexual tension in one scene before, but they engage in this weird dance ritual. And basically the whole thing is just Lady X just flirting with Dex more, which she literally just did that at that party in the scene right before this. I don't know why we needed this whole thing to happen. Finally, this whole thing gets interrupted by a scream outside. Lady X and Dex run out there, and one of the little persona dudes has just died, and they're, like, trying to figure out who did this. And this kind of pushes us into, like, a pretty interesting, like, dual plot line going on. Basically, in the supermarket world, all the pre-existing just personas for the food, which they call them Ikes in this movie. I think that stands for icon. But all these Ikes are dying randomly. And then in the real world, with Leonard McThickington, his supermarket is getting overrun by Product X stuff, which, again, I feel like if he didn't want those there, as the owner of the store, he could be like, no, we're not selling your product. Isn't that how that works? But somehow, you know, capitalism. But Dex decides to keep going as a detective again. He puts back on his detective hat, even though he never takes off a hat of any kind in this whole movie. He just switches hats. And he goes out trying to find out what's happening to all these Ikes. And as he's doing so, of course, he finds himself back with Lady X, doing another sexual-ass dance conversation. But this time, instead of just giving up, Lady X is like, alright, fine, and she knocks him the fuck out. And Dex wakes up, like, in this prison, and he's with Dave now. I forgot to mention, Daredevil Dave has been missing since the party sequence back there. He left with Lady X and had not been seen again, and then now he's just back. So apparently Lady X captured him. But now with Dex and Dave both out of the way, Lady X and the whole Product X empire can move forward with their plan to take over this whole freaking store.
We're taking over!
But Dex and Dave escape. They bust out of this little prison and they go into the real world with real humans. And they break into like the back room of the supermarket and they run into this weird bat dude, and for some reason he is into Dave.
Do you work out? I use the Thigh Master.
And that kind of seems like the whole purpose of this character is just to make Dave uncomfortable.
Hey, back off!
Because this movie needed more sexual tension, apparently. But long story short, they break into this computer, they find out that Product X has been hacking in and doing recalls for all the other products, getting them kicked out, taking over capitalism. But this was including Sunshine. That's right, they find Sunshine in this computer, so it is personal for Dex. He's going after Product X. That was a bar right there, hell yeah. So then, they go back to the supermarket world, and Dex gathers up all the remaining Ikes, and this is where, like, literally my favorite part of the movie is. So all the, like, dudes are lining up, and there's those 3 rat dudes again, and there's just the one, I guess he's not paying attention, the other one just attacks him. I don't know why, just his scream just cracks me up. That was the most I laughed in the whole entirety of this movie. But then basically, I guess at this point, Product X and all those people were running like a whole ass dictatorship. And basically, there's just this random scene where when all the regular Ikes are gathered up, all the Product X dudes just bust in and they just start singing like their national anthem.
Brand X, Brand X.
And then the regular guys are just like, no, we're going to sing back. And they just both like sing their national anthems at each other. And I guess the regular Ikes win. They sing louder. So I guess that's cool. But all of this leads up to this moment.
Food!
That's why they call it that. So there's a whole just intense just fight sequence. A full war is just blowing up through this whole city. Shit's going wild. And eventually it just leads to the scene where that Weasel guy comes back. And he's, I'm pretty sure, voiced by a different person for this scene.
Lonely bachelor night. Ah, Slither and Slime?
Like, I think the original guy just quit. But basically, he's fighting along with Dex. Like, he joins him to be a good guy. Dex develops this whole plan. He gets all of his pals to go climb up on top of their buildings and build some random thing out of tinfoil. And they're all singing as this is happening. And he makes this whole plan where he gets the Weasel to go knock over a power line and shoot electricity all over the city, and all the ones that had the tinfoil on top aren't going to get hit by the electricity, I guess. I'm not 100% sure if that's how that works. But then all the other ones, which are Product X buildings, do get hit by the lightning and they freaking explode. Yeah, this next sequence is intense. A lot of the dudes just die. It's dark stuff, man. But finally, Dex just has a big old hero moment. He hops in Daredevil Dan's plane, which, according to that guy's flight history, that alone is a pretty brave thing to do. But he flies into all the wreckage of this whole war going on, and he leaps into this building, and we find Sunshine. She's still alive, and she's captured by Lady X. And in a badass fight scene, Dex defeats Lady X. He saves Sunshine. That is a tongue twister. And then Daredevil Dan comes and swoops them up on the plane, saves the day. It would have been a perfect ending there, but as I'm sure you realize, there was a lot of loose ends not tied up. And what better way to do that than by just have the vampire guy come back and to reveal that he's not a real person at all. It was actually Lady X controlling him as a robot. And for Lady X just to come out and explain everything else that needed to be said in like 2 minutes. She basically explains that I guess Lady X used to be a different product. She was like really ugly and she was a different raisin brand. And she was all jealous of Sunshine, so she kidnapped Sunshine and stole her essence, which just sounds so weird.
What have they done to you?
Brand X took my essence.
And just made herself into a new product with the same smell as those raisins.
That scent. Something familiar.
But then Sunshine just comes in and beats her up. It's pretty badass. And then out of nowhere, this doctor just comes in and apparently he just made like a life-saving serum that brings everybody who died back to life. So literally as happy as an ending as it gets. And finally, Dex can pop the question. Boom. Happy wedding. Happy movie. Yeah, that was the best I could do to sum up this movie. There's a lot of other things that happen, a lot of random side characters that are just there for random gags. Just so many strange moments, just a lot of animation that's done like this. So if you want to watch something like what I just described, I guess I would recommend this movie. Like I said, it's free on YouTube, so not the worst way to spend an hour and a half, but yeah. Alright. Well, that movie took a lot out of me.